What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and we are having a completely new setup today. We've got a microphone, we've got a light, we've got all that we need. And this is because we are starting a movie review set. This is just a new complete change. I made an announcement about this on my on a couple of social media, but today we're talking about a movie that you can probably see the obvious. Last night I went to see Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, and before I give my opinion on this film, I kind of want to go through what I think on the other films. The 86 one, thought it was pretty cool. Scarred a lot of people for reasons, but we're not going to go too deep into that. The first film, loved it. It was one of my first childhood films that I've ever watched, and I still continue to watch to this day. The second film, okay, a little bit of problems, especially around some of the characters and the script in general. Third film was my absolute favorite. Keyword was. We'll get to why soon. I just thought it had the most action, the most visual spectacles, and I just thought that it was, I think, the best one at the time. Age of Extinction, slow. Mark Wahlberg's acting was not it. And I know a lot of people hate the designs. I don't. I do think that they're a little off, but I don't completely flat hate them. Last night, genuinely hated. I thought that that was the worst script, the worst story. I felt like it was just made so Michael Bay could try to get another paycheck out of making his last film. And Bumblebee, absolutely loved. Also another great film that I loved, a really great origin story, and a great restart to the Transformers fan base, which, again, we're going to get to. So, Rise of the Beasts. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I think that this is definitively the best Transformers film. Say what you will about the Bay films. If you love them, good for you. That's your opinion. But in my opinion, this is my opinion, I thought that this film was perfect. I felt like we got the best rendition of these characters. We got the best humans, I feel like. And also great villains. So let's start with the story. Oh, this is going to contain a lot of spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, go, please. I don't want to ruin this movie for you. If you plan to see it, go see it. I am not going to have this ruined for you. So if you have not seen it, go and see the movie and then come back and watch this video. So let's start with the story. This film is pretty much almost the exact same as most others when it comes to story, because all the films are pretty much go and search for this ancient Cybertronian artifact, or else the villains will get to it first and then all havoc breaks loose. That's pretty much the same story, but what makes it better is the characters, which we'll get to in a second. So in this film, they are after the thing called the Transwarp Key, which acts as a more powerful space bridge, which has the ability to transcend through time and space. But the reason why this one is so important is because it teases and can make the arrival of Unicron. And if you don't know who Unicron is, he is pretty much Transformers' version of Galactus. So he eats planets. That's pretty big stakes. And in this film, we are introduced to the Maximals, who are the protectors of the Transwarp Key, led by Optimus Primal, who is an ancient descendant to Optimus Prime, hence the namesake. And Ron Perlman voices Optimus Primal, and absolutely incredible performance from him. But again, we'll get to that in the characters. After the opening with the death of Ape Link and the introduction to Scourge, and we see Unicron eat the planet. We actually see Unicron eat a planet in live action, so that's incredible. That's something I think a lot of us Transformers fans wanted to see. We're then introduced to Noah, played by Anthony Ramos, who did a phenomenal job. I think that this is possibly the best human. And after another introduction, we're met to Elena. Can't remember the voice actress' name. Should have continued my research. Who is also pretty good. And then after finding an ancient artifact, Elena discovers that part of the Transwarp Key is in there, and it activates, and we're introduced to Optimus and the Autobots. After that, Noah tries to steal a car, which turns out to be Mirage. And Then we're given more detail into the Autobots. They go to try and steal this transport, keep it Scourge and the Terracons, who are pretty much in Transformers Prime, they're undead zombies in a way, but in this film, they're just full slaves of Unicron. We didn't really get a full detailed backstory, but I'm sure we will, because this is starting a new trilogy. After Scourge takes the first part, they go to Peru to find the second piece, and a whole battle ensues. We're introduced to Air Razor, and after the second key has been found, after being reintroduced to the Maximals and getting to meet the rest of them, Air Razor turns evil because Scourge possessed her or something like that. Used some sort of Terracon rust. Not really sure. They didn't really tell what they just said if Scourge touches you, you become a slave or something like that. But after Scourge gets the second piece, they take it to a volcano, and then the final battle ensues. And of course, they win. Optimus almost sacrifices himself, but they brought in until all are one, which has been a phrase that has been pretty much missing in all of these films. That's pretty much been the whole stating point of Transformers. And victory is won. But then at the end, they decided to do a little bit of a weird tease. Again, major spoiler. Go see the movie and then come back. But it appears that this franchise is going to be combining with G.I. Joe. Yeah, Noah gets accepted into G.I. Joe, apparently. I don't know why they want to do this. I don't think it's really a good idea. And the reason why is because G.I. Joe only had... knocked over Battletrap. I feel like G.I. Joe needs to stay in its own universe. Just because Marvel is combining all of their heroes and stuff like that together doesn't mean everybody else should. We saw how bad it was when they rushed DC. This is not a good idea. G.I. Joe needs to be in its own universe with its own characters, especially after Retaliation didn't do so well. And that was the last G.I. Joe movie we got, and that came out I think 8-some years ago. Came out a long time ago. But with that being said, let's start getting into the characters. I guess we'll start with least favorite and go to most favorite. But before I say anything, both the humans, incredible. Again, they both did a really great job. The best humans we've gotten in these films. Better than Mark Wahlberg, better than Shia LaBeouf. But you guys are probably here to want to know about the bots. So, Optimus Prime, the best. The best version of Optimus I think we've gotten other than Transformers Prime. This is a young leader who tries to take in all the responsibility by himself. He feels that he himself is responsible for all the deaths, for the fall of Cybertron, for everything. And as the film goes on, we see him develop more as a full-time leader. He grows as a character, which is amazing to see because we love Optimus Prime so much since the 80s, since his debut in the old cartoon. We've loved him ever since. So seeing him get a new character arc and development in this film really is incredible. Bumblebee, again, really good. Really kind of getting tired of him losing his voice, though. I do feel like that is a really overused plot, I feel like, especially in the movies, because it's so inconsistent. They give it to him, they take it away, they give it back to him, they take it away. It's just repeated. And again, he dies in this film, only to come back later, which kind of seemed a little pointless. But then again, it did give us that awesome skydiving scene, which was awesome. Primal, again, Ron Perlman did this character amazingly. I really did enjoy seeing the Maximals on screen. And I just wish we got more. I wish we got more of them. Scourge, the main villain, I was pretty terrified from him. His design was great. I love that there was a whole theory going around saying that he was a evil version of Bayverse Optimus Prime from the old movies. I didn't believe it. I knew that it was BS from the start because they were just like, oh, it's this head crest. His head crest it's the same as Optimus. Guys, we've seen these films reuse CGI models and assets. This isn't the first time we've done this. We've had Bone Crusher brought back to life, Long Haul, Scrapper, all of them. This isn't the first time we've seen reused assets in a Transformers film. Cheetor, he's my personal favorite Maximal. I wish we got more of him. He did not say a lot. He didn't really do a lot. All he did was pounce on Mirage and help out in the final battle. And Rhinox, they did him dirty in this film. They just had him be the big brute, which is not really all his character is. He's also the scientific. He's pretty much the Beast Wars version of Wheeljack almost. And I wish we got more of that. Speaking of Wheeljack, we'll talk about him next. I don't care for the design. I do not care that his design was changed. I think that people were overreacting, especially the G1 fans, because they think it's all about them. The accent was a little distracting, but then again, I would have preferred this version over Albert Einstein any day. Which, yeah, that's, if you don't know, Dark of the Moon, he looked a lot like Albert Einstein, which is ridiculous. RC, also a really great character, also pretty good. Again, just was there for fighting. Although she was also used to identify Noah to the Autobots, and wow, I pretty much almost forgot. And then Battletrap, another just brute character, meant to be on the sidelines for doing Scourge's and Unicron's bidding. And I mean, his design was cool. I really did like his design. And then Nightbird, I was really excited for this character, and she was pretty intimidating. I do think that she was intimidating as a character. I do wish we got a little bit of a rivalry between her and RC. I felt like that could have been a really great side story, just between her and RC in the final fight. That would have been really cool, because in G1, their designs are strictly similar. Freezer, pretty scary. He had some pretty good jump scares. I heard a lot of people in the theater scream, especially little kids. Which, yeah, they brought little kids to the theater. Their parents were bringing their younger kids, like, I think like 6-year-olds, to this film, which surprised me. And then Unicron, great tease, great start to this trilogy, from what I heard. Again, this is supposed to be starting a new trilogy. I hope they go through with it, because this film was great. And, I mean, I feel like Orson Welles did really good, but this new voice actor they got was really well done. And his design was incredible. I'm glad we got to see him eat planets. I guess next we can talk about designs. Let's talk about the designs of the characters next. Again, incredible. Really did a lot of inspiration off of G1, and with the success of the Bumblebee movie, they're trying to stick with that G1 mix. They're trying to mix both live action and G1 together, which I think is really good, especially for Optimus here. Bumblebee, they went back to the Camaro, which I don't really have a problem with that. I love the Camaro. It's one of my favorite cars, and it's how we were introduced to Bumblebee. The Maximals, really nice seeing like barely any fur on. There was fur on them, and they did work really well. The mix of fur and metal was nice. I'm glad that they didn't go like full, just complete gorilla, because then that would have just felt too weird. And the Terracons, again, they worked really cool. Frieza was really nice. He did almost look like Frenzy, which people were thinking he was going to be a precursor to Frenzy. No, that's not happening. I know they look similar, but again, they reuse assets a lot. It's common. What else do we want? Oh, I forgot to talk about Air Razor. I forgot to talk about her. Predictable. As soon as she got hit by that thing that Scourge shot at her, I knew that she was going to turn evil. I called it from the start when it happened, and it didn't surprise me in the least. When that moment of her eyes switching, I was like, yeah, I knew it. I knew it was happening. Not a big problem, but they kind of need to focus more on the surprise, because I thought that there was also supposed to be Cosmic Rust, which is also canon in the Transformers. The action. Let's talk about the action now. Unbelievable. I was so shocked with some of these action scenes, because, again, just like with Bumblebee, we can see it happening. We're not just cutting away to random humans all the time. We're not even, there's barely even any there's no military in here. We don't get any military. So we don't have to hear all this target acquired and all this military stuff like we did in the other films. It's just our robots and our 2 humans. There's no military shouting out stuff, which is what Michael Bay did a lot of. All we got was cuts to military stuff, talking in their talking in their military ways and giving out coordinates and stuff like that, which was fine, but it was really overused. It was really, really overused. And in this film, I love that you don't have any of that. It is just our two humans and our robots. And I'm glad about that because we really got to go all over with them fighting. There's good tracking shots in there, and it is just unbelievable. And seeing them actually transform. We see them transform in this movie. Unlike in The Last Night where we just see Optimus emerge out of a puff of smoke in his truck mode at the end of The Last Night. Why? We watched Transformers so we could see them transform. And this is what we got. A lot of really cool highway road chases and crashes. It is incredible. Next, let's talk about the music. This new composer really did well. I love that Maximal theme. But I think the real gold digger here was Steve Jablonsky coming back. He did the soundtrack and the score for the other films, and it's really cool seeing him back. I do love Steve Jablonsky's Transformers music, probably the most beautiful soundtrack I've heard. And with that being said, talking about Steve Jablonsky, let's go into the big debate. Is this a reboot or a prequel? I am on the consideration it's a reboot. And let me explain why. This is where we're going to get into the complicated stuff. So if you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. But this is to all the hardcore Transformers fans that are still in the middle of debating this. The producer, one of the executive producers, say that this is a prequel. And then someday, I think I remember him saying that it could be a reboot or a prequel. So this guy is literally just pulling words out of his butt. He has no idea what he is talking about. He's just there to make money and not care about what the story is. But the director, who did Creed 2, mind you, he did Creed 2, the director of this film, says that this is confirmed a reboot. So do we listen to the director who made the movie or the producer who tries to just share the movie? Right? And now let's get into the complicated evidence on why it is a reboot. The timelines just don't add up. I just don't understand how this timeline connects. So B is already on Earth and Bumblebee, but it shows in The Last Night that he's been there since World War II. How does that make sense? Did he go back to Cybertron and then come back to Earth? Same with Optimus. They're already on Earth in the 1990s and they come back down in 2007? How does that make sense? We got a full arrival to Earth sequence with Optimus, Jazz, Ironhide, and Ratchet in 2007 in the first film. Yeah, in this film, they're already there in 1994. Even before that, they said that this takes place 7 years after Bumblebee. So, again, the timeline just doesn't add up. And another reason, Unicron in the original Bayformers film is stuck in the Earth, like in Transformers Prime. Yeah, in this film, he's his own planet. He's his own planet-eating ways. So, design-wise, it doesn't make... I just don't feel like it makes sense. I mean, all the evidence is stacked that this is a reboot. New origin and new designs. And one other piece of evidence is I remember reading that because The Last Night flopped, they had to shoot that whole Cybertron scene for the beginning of Bumblebee. They were originally going to make it a prequel, but since The Last Night failed so badly, they had to make that Cybertron sequence and all that stuff to make it a reboot. Because that's pretty good filmmaking decision. You don't want to connect it to a crappier franchise. You don't want to connect a new great story to this old franchise that didn't do so well. Again, it doesn't make sense. The timeline just doesn't add up. The design choices they make don't make sense and connect that well. And plus, if it was a prequel, we would have gotten some mention about this in the other films before they made these rushed decisions to add all these new characters at the beginning, right? Like, oh yeah, I remember meeting this giant gorilla back in 1994. I'm pretty sure that he can help us fight this new biometric evil nanobot technology that's introduced in Transformers 4. I don't even remember what it's called. That's how forgettable they are. But overall, I think that this film did really well for me. I really enjoyed it. I think that this is the best Transformers film that we have gotten so far, other than Bumblebee. So in the end, I am going to give this film an 8.5 out of 10. Again, there are some little issues with it. Again, it's the slow beginning. It just felt pretty dragging on when they were trying to establish their character development for the humans. But once we got like to our first chase with Mirage, then I feel like it really kicks up. And again, some stuff was just predictable. The freezer jump scares and air raids are turning evil. They could have done really well with those surprises. But again, much more positives than negatives. Optimus was great. B was great. Primal was great. The action was great. The music was great. The whole cinematography was great. It was some of the stuff was beautiful to look at. But yeah, this, in my opinion, is a very well done film. I cannot wait to see where this trilogy goes. I hope they take it in the right direction. Please stay away from G.I. Joe. Please, I beg of you. But we know it's not going to happen. They're going to keep going with it. But yeah, that was my review of Transformers Rise of the Beasts. Again, I'm kind of just going off of my first reaction, so maybe I'll do another one where I do more in depth. But I did kind of go into a lot of it myself here. So thank you guys so much for watching. Cannot wait to continue these movie reviews. And I will see you guys in the next one. You guys take care.